new Zoom announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. Welcome, everyone. It's about 7:03, so we'll give a couple more minutes for some people to come on in for our June speaker series. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have a great panel to kick off Pride Month. I see some familiar faces. Hi, Britt. Good to see you. Hi, Dick.
Good evening. Hi.
Good
How are you?
evening. Good.
I'm so
Good.
excited to see some friends on this panel.
Nice.
So good. Ari and Ewan, thank you for coming. Diana, Anne.
Hey, excited to be here. Just eating, so I don't want you all to see my gross eating face.
Are
I'm
you
in the
enjoying
same
it?
boat, but I'm happy to join.
Thank you. Hi, Jesse. Just welcoming everyone. Sue, Michelle. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Congratulations on Wellness Week, Karen. It went really well.
Oh, thank you, Dick. Yes. Well, thanks to you and to everyone else that's been so supportive
Good.
throughout the month. And yeah.
Good job. Good work. And Tim
Thank
and
you so
everybody
much.
who was so involved in all that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, we have Tim Davis, our program director, and Elizabeth Stevens, and also Juan Acosta was a part of our panel. So many people were involved. Britt did some amazing activities down at 3rd Street Promenade along with Ari. So many people really kind of pulled together to make mental health awareness. It was a whole month, really. So, but yeah, it was great. But now we are 7:05, so maybe let's get going. And just welcome to the June Janice Black Warner Speaker Series. And just thank you for all coming. And this evening, we're going to have a panel discussion to celebrate Pride Month. NAMI Westside LA's Operation Outreach Coordinator, Elizabeth Stevens, will be moderating a panel discussion on mental health support for LGBTQ+ and community members. So a little bit about Elizabeth. I'm going to talk a little bit about her and give an introduction. And then she will kind of take over and moderate and facilitate the conversation for this evening. So Elizabeth Stevens is NAMI Westside LA's Operation Outreach Manager and so much more. She's passionate about mental health advocacy and ensuring that the appropriate mental health services are accessible to all. As a part of NAMI WLA's educational outreach initiatives, Elizabeth teaches peer classes and leads peer support groups. Many of whom are here this evening, I think, participate in those peer classes and those peer support groups. So just a testament to who she is as a leader in this space. And those resources are designed to support adults with mental health conditions as they navigate their personal mental health journeys. And in this role, Elizabeth aims to create a space for people with mental health conditions to find both support and resources to engage in self-advocacy and empowerment. So if you know her, you love her. She is a very empathetic person who is probably one of the best listeners I've ever met. Listening for her is an active verb, and she is always there just to listen. And I think that, again, she's a wonderful member of our team, and we're so grateful for her to be moderating this, this panel this evening. So Elizabeth, I'll let you take it from there.
Oh, Erin, thank you. That was such a kind intro. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. It's so good to see so many familiar faces on here. Like Erin said, I see a lot of peers from our groups and our classes, so thank you for joining tonight. I'm really excited to bring you a fantastic panel and conversation this evening. We have Torri Shack, Leigh Wakeford, and Juan Acosta, all fantastic LGBTQ+ and mental health advocates. So I'm going to jump in and give some intros for them. Our first panelist is Juan Acosta, who's an LGBTQ+ mental health advocate and speaker who serves on national committees. He's a New York Times bestselling author for a book co-authored with Lady Gaga called Channel Kindness. And he also currently serves as the Cal Hope Warm Line Regional Manager. And we have been really lucky over here at NAMI Westside LA to work with Juan for all of Mental Health Awareness Month, and he's been doing so much amazing work with our community. So thank you for hopping on now into Pride Month with us. We're so grateful to have you, Juan. And yes, our next panelist is Leigh Wakeford, who's a teacher and student of the art of feeling good. He believes in motivational movement and meditation as the root of mental health, transformation, and blissful self-love. He's been an instructor of yoga, dance, and this philosophy for most of his life, and has amazing online offerings that Tim just put the website in the chat, so be sure to check that out. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Leigh at one of our peer classes taught with Britt, who's also on this call. So I love that full circle connection. That was about a year ago. And I'm so lucky that I got to meet you at that class, Leigh. And thank you for coming tonight. And Torri Shack, last but not least, is a renowned international keynote mental wellness and resiliency speaker. She speaks from the perspective of her own lived experiences. She's a strong advocate for mental health, physical wellness, addiction, recovery, and resiliency through her motivational speaking style. Torri is also the founder and executive director of Tangible Movement, which is a nonprofit organization formed to inspire, educate, and provide tangible support for individuals who are struggling with mental health conditions, suicidal ideation, addiction, and sexual/gender identity issues. And I actually met Torri back in 2018 and got trained with her to be a peer teacher and was the first person I ever taught a peer-to-peer class with. And we always have such a great time doing that. So we go way, way back. And thank you for hopping on to and I'm really excited to just get this conversation started. I wish that I had more spaces like this growing up, more places to have this conversation. I know that it would have made coming to terms with my own identity as a queer woman so much easier to have these kind of conversations, and it would have really helped my mental health journey as well. So I just want to hop right in and ask our panelists to introduce themselves with their preferred pronouns. And then if you could each share a bit about your own journey in the mental health space and how your LGBTQ identity has influenced your mental health advocacy. And I'll pass it off to Juan, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
Love that, Elizabeth. Thank you for making me first. I'm Juan Acosta. My pronouns are he, him, and I identify as a gay male. The catalyst for my work in the mental health field has been my own lived experience and my challenges growing up in a small town. I was born in Jalisco, Mexico, and it was hard being in a country I didn't know and had to learn the English language at a young age. But I also began getting bullied and labeled things before I was able to come to terms with it myself, which was really damaging for my mental health. So when I got involved in my work and my advocacy work started at the age of 13, I know I wanted to change that. And I wanted to make sure that didn't happen for other young people growing up where I was growing up in. And it's informed my work ever since. I've been able to collaborate with Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation, Mental Health America, NAMI, and currently with the Mental Health Association of San Francisco. And it will be something that I continue to do for as long as I'm here. I want to ensure that young people have that representation, especially young people of color who are in the LGBTQ plus community who have a harder time getting access to resources, whether it's a language barrier or lack of resources in general available to them.
Thank you so much, Juan, for kicking us off. And we are so lucky to have you as a part of NAMI Westside LA and really resonate with that sharing of lived experience. So important. Leigh, would you mind hopping in next?
Of course. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that sweet and fabulous intro. So happy to be here, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Leigh. I pronouns he, him. I also identify as a gay male. I come from, even though I don't sound it, I was born and raised in Cape Town, South Africa. And so my experience was similar in that there's also the cultural adaptation and showing up in a country and figuring out what sexual identity means to me. I did not come out until I was about 23 years old. That was a solid 2 years into my moving here to the United States. So it was very interesting coming to terms with that identity completely separated from the culture, family, and environment that I was raised in. The Afrikaans culture, which I was a part of, didn't really view mental health. And obviously I'm generalizing here, it could be more specific to my family, but in South Africa, the idea of seeking therapy or seeking mental help for your mental health was very low down the list of priorities. Feelings were some things that you dealt with. You did not speak about them. You did not bring them up in your family. So even if I did come to the realization that I was gay and chose to express that way, it was definitely something that was suppressed within me for a very long time. So since music and dance was the only language that I knew at the time, and met my gay friends and was exposed to a culture and a community that is so extremely vibrant and expressive in the way that they live, that is the language that I continue to speak as I move through life. So my connection starts there, working with gay youth in theater. My work as a yoga teacher is primarily a segue of movement and understanding mindfulness within self and your connection to the body as a form of acceptance and understanding of that which might be scary. And so my intention is to continue moving in that field, getting my degree, my master's in clinical psychology coming up soon. And I really care to work with my movement and that degree to just expand that awareness of acceptance as someone who's both not culturally here, although I'm a white male growing up as an adult in America, but to share my lived experience and to incorporate the sense of play and joy of movement, dance, and the arts to create a safe space for mental expression.
Leigh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And Torri, coming around to you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It was so awesome to see you again. Your face, I mean, like on Zoom. I haven't seen you live for a while. Tim, great to see you as well. Aaron, love you. It's great to see you. And Juan, I remember we were on a panel last year. You're from Jalisco. Yes, that's where my wife is from. So that's where I was like, okay, yes, Jalisco. I can say it, you know? But my pronouns right now are she, her. I identify as non-binary. As far as my experience has gone with myself coming out and being comfortable being gay, it's taken years and years and years. I grew up in a household, a racist household. My father was severely racist against every race and extremely homophobic. So I grew up homophobic. I grew up hating gay people. And then I just found out that I was gay, and then I hated myself. And my dad didn't want any of us to go to therapy because he thought, he didn't want any crazy people in his household. So he told my mom he could take me to therapy so long as we paid cash only, no insurance, no paper trail, no nothing. So the stigma for me for mental health and being gay and lesbian was really real for me. He told me not to cut my hair short I won't say the word, but there's a word that could sound is derogatory. And he said, don't put any rainbow stickers on my car, and don't tell any of his friends that I was gay. So the first thing I did is I cut my hair all off, and I put big rainbow stickers on my car. And Yeah, and so throughout my life, I've struggled with it, especially in jobs and other areas of my life as far as dating is concerned before I got married. So I started a nonprofit about 6 years ago called Tangible Movement, and basically it's a purpose to inspire, educate, and promote tangible resources for individuals who are struggling with mental health, addiction, LGBTQIA, and racial and gender inequality. We're an awareness platform similar to NAMI. So I refer everything to NAMI. I love NAMI with like all my heart. And Elizabeth, I've loved teaching, I love teaching classes with you because we're both right on it. NAMI is a fantastic organization. I have met, the friends that I've made through NAMI have been fantastic. And what NAMI does is, it's been around since 1979, I believe. The work that NAMI does is pretty incredible, and is in depth as doing all the courses, the ETS and IOB and the CIT programming and all the different programming that NAMI does is really, really amazing. So thank you for having me.
Torri, I'm glad this is recorded. That was a great pitch for all of our programs. That was amazing. That was so nice. Thank you all for hopping in. And Leigh, you brought up community when you were talking, and that really resonates with me. And so I'm wondering for each of our panelists, what has community meant to you, whether that's within your chosen family, or if you've created a support network with your friends? What has community meant to you? And anyone can feel free to hop in.
I actually did a Google commercial a few years ago about this exact topic, and it was about your chosen family. It was the first time Google has ever gotten involved in like a sphere like this, and they did a commercial on Google Pixel, and my chosen for me, community means my chosen family. And I know this hurt. Actually, I found out later on. My mother is deceased, but this hurt her feelings very much when she found out that I had a chosen family, because she didn't understand what that meant. And it didn't mean that I was, putting my real family aside and just taking on this family. This was my chosen family, people I hang out with, that I can entrust, that don't judge me, don't look at me differently, don't, they support me in ways that maybe my family can't do because of the resentments I have personally, or just in general they can't do because they're not able to do it. So that's what that is for me.
I've been very fortunate in those surrounding me, especially as a kid growing up in the arts, which has a natural sense of family to it, right? Every single production you do, or every single bus and truck tour that you do, or you are forced into an experience that you share together, right? So within that experience and within an openness to those who express differently or other, I've been very fortunate to have a very strong group of allied friends or allies to the LGBTQ community plus community, and they continue to be that which I consider to be chosen family. It's not a topic that comes up often with my family that I was born into. I have a similar shame element when it comes to something that's not necessarily freely expressed, right? It's like, be who you are, just don't talk to anyone about it, which in itself, was something that showed up for me several years later, when I finally got to a point where also, like I mentioned, therapy, much like you, Torri, was not something to be proud of. It was a last resort for those with severe mental illness. If you were to go see a therapist, it was the final straw, right? There was something severely wrong. And so that was never sought out until I'm now 37 years old. I started therapy when I was 30. Right. So a lot of shit came up in the past 7 years, which has been fabulous. And I got to deal with many things, but I judge myself for not having a very large queer community. Like, I judge myself within the community that I'm a part of for not having a bunch of brunch gays, right? Or having a group of male only friends that did Palm Springs, did Fire Island, do what you see to be the gay lifestyle. I don't want to call it cliche because everyone expresses differently, but all that I knew is what I saw was not what I felt, and whether that was based in shame for me or whether that was just not the way that I chose to enjoy friends in life, is something that I'm still coming to terms with, honestly. But I am surrounded by allies, which this room is filled with. And that is something that's been so exciting to me, is just to see the growth in the community of allies. And that's what kind of the community theme shout out that I wanted to give.
I love that. And for me, community to me means just anyone who respects me, who surrounds me, who respects me, and who's conscious of me and my needs. Because I don't need people to accept me, because I accept myself and I love myself. So as long as you're conscious of who I am and what I stand for, that's what I need. I don't need your acceptance. And those around me are aware of that. And my parents, I remember coming out to them, and I remember being prepared to like get kicked out of the house because, you know, they're very traditional Mexican family. But to my surprise, they didn't. My dad gave me a kiss on the cheek. I love you. You're my son. And no matter what, my mother did the same. And that was quite a surprise to me, because I had mentally prepared myself and built up a huge wall with my parents, because I didn't want them to hurt me when they shunned me away. But that wasn't the case. And I have like a wonderful relationship with them. And I know it's not the case for many people, especially not from those who have a different culture. So I'm really grateful to them. And I've been friends, my closest friends are the ones I've been with for over 10 years now. And they know me, they understand me. They know when I'm okay and they know when I'm not, and they know when we can support each other. And I think that's what I'm most grateful for, just a support group that I do have. And I know I'm lucky. I know it's not everyone's story, and I appreciate everyone in my life.
Juan, I really resonated with that I had such fear of coming out to my family and my grandparents, and with the time or the people that I live with. And looking back on it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it was so lovely. They were so accepting. I came out to my grandparents as gay, and they were like, we know. And I was like, you could have told me, like, you could have let me in on this. They seemed to know before I did, because I, like you, Torri, had a lot of like internalized homophobia. So I could not accept that identity in myself. And it was something that for me was a really hard part, was coming out to myself and coming to terms with that. I'm not sure if that experience of experiencing internalized homophobia, or how that maybe affect all of your mental health, if that's something that you all experience as well.
I definitely did growing up, because of machismo culture that runs my culture, and seeing things on TV like men always have to be tough and this and that, and especially like when it comes around like being femme was like something I completely did not understand. And it took me like a while in my journey of like accepting who I was to like understand what that was. And like, if I want to show up in a sparkly blazer, I freaking will, and I'll look fabulous in it. And I don't have to feel like ashamed or look the other way because I'm wearing a sparkly blazer, or if I want to wear some huge sunglasses. So for me, like, it's definitely been a learning experience, but it's a lot that came from my culture, unfortunately, and stuff I saw in the media growing up that was influencing a lot of my thoughts at that point.
I would say for me, it runs even deeper than I was willing to acknowledge. I thought it looked a certain way, and then it rears its head in all different ways of expression, right? Or things that I discover that I enjoy, but it's immediately connected with a sense of shame or a sense of guilt for liking something because it is different, right? And less so out of concern what other people thought, but I realized I was keeping myself like in bondage with my own belief system, right? That was either ingrained in me, but something that I still accepted to be my own. And so that shift and change is definitely something that I also experienced, Elizabeth, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely caused for me intimacy issues, major. So I started dating straight women, knowing full well that they were not gonna stay with me. it was a way for me to prove to myself that I was worthless. You know, like, okay, I'm gonna date this person, right? But they're not gonna be here like in a couple weeks because they're gonna go off for some dude or whatnot. See, I'm worthless. See, look how worthless I am. And and that's what came from my homophobia, you know, internalized when I was younger. And so I dated a lot of women that were emotionally not available at all, straight or bisexual, and mostly bisexual and straight girls I dated. I've actually only dated, I think, been with 2 gay women in my life. And one of them was my relationship early on in my life in junior high, or excuse me, in college. We were together for 7 years. And the second one is with my wife, Michelle. And I finally grew out of that intimacy issues. As soon as I started dating her, I ran back to therapy. I'm like, please help me not sabotage this relationship, because that's what I do. You know, I'm a sabotager. So because of course I can't be happy. Like, no, I can't be loved. Like, I'm not lovable. So I need to know how not to sabotage the relationship. And so that's what I did after I got into this relationship with my now wife.
Torri, I'm so glad that you brought up therapy there, because I was just thinking about my own journey and finding a therapist that fit for me, that I could come to when I was experiencing these things. I actually don't know how I would have gotten through it without that person. But all of that being said, like, I also know I was really lucky to find a therapist who was an ally and was able to have these discussions with me. And I know that there's already so many barriers to getting really, you know, good quality, accessible mental health care. And those barriers are only increased for LGBTQ plus folks. So I'm wondering how you all found, or if you have found a mental health professional, or, you know, a trusted professional, and how was that process?
I just found a new one. I stopped right before the pandemic. I stopped therapy, and then I started going again because my mother passed of COVID in December. And then I was dealing with that. I'm having back surgery on Friday. So there's just been a lot of stuff going on in my life that's just been like boom, 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 boom. So I got a therapist through my best friend, Jill, actually. And she's amazing. She's not gay or anything, you know, but, you know, she's been in the business for 30 years. She's got a PhD and like 4 masters. And, you know, she's just really, really a brilliant individual. And she's recognized that I'm just like overly stressed, like constantly like this, right? So we do a lot of, she does a lot of like hypnotherapy type stuff through our sessions. And it really, I'm surprised that I can actually relax, you know? So it helps a lot, and just kind of getting things out, and she process things, even though she's not gay. You know, I have a relationship with her, and you know, and that's important. That I feel like I feel comfortable with her and confident that she can handle the issues that I'm presenting.
I'm not currently seeing a therapist. And for me, I think what has really benefited and supported me the most has been peer support, which is why I'm working in the peer support field, because that's when I felt the most comfortable to be myself and to talk openly, because I was like, this person gets it. They've been there before, they get it. And I think like the work we do in peer support is very much that. It's meeting people where they're at and allowing you all to share that common knowledge and experience. And I think there's a lot to learn from one another. And I said this last week, Erin, but I do think that when people have a conversation, there's so much knowledge and that you learn, and that stays with you forever. And for me, it was life-saving just hearing from counselors and like other mentors that I had growing up speak to me one-on-one and see eye to eye, getting rid of that hierarchy of like, you have to do this, you have to do that, because at the end of the day, it's about that self-empowerment. And when you're ready to do things, whether it's coming out, seeking support for your mental health or whatever it might be. And I think that's what empowers me the most personally.
I'm still seeking. I've grown into some specific questions that I am wanting and willing to explore, and especially as I'm heading into the field of study of clinical psychology. It's not only something that's required, but something that I just think is going to be absolutely fascinating for me. I've had a couple of therapists in the past, both female, and it was no surprise to me that I had incredible breakthroughs with them because I value the female energies in my life so very much. My father passed when I was 18 years old, so it was a mother and grandmother kind of moving into those, formative years as a young adult. That has really carried me through. So I'm very grateful for both of those, but now I'm seeking some just full on gay specific things that I want to talk about, and I've received some recommendations, but I've actually found it quite challenging going through the specific health insurance gateway or pathway to figure out what that is, because and I'm still making up my mind how I feel about this, but they do not choose to include their LGBT friendly or LGBT status whatsoever. And pardon my shortening, the abbreviation. So through my own, which is Kaiser Permanente, I have not been able to locate specifically a gay therapist or a gay friendly therapist. So that's been curious, but I've since asked around and I've gotten a couple of recommendations, which have been fabulous.
That that really, I think, also helps tie back into that peer support element. I remember when I was looking for a therapist, I was also asking around my friends, and just even like I didn't end up going to their therapist necessarily, but hearing what their experiences were, I was like, oh, that I would value that in a person. Like I would trust someone who's talking like that. And I want to give a shout out to Garrett, who is on the line, who led the Tuesday support group with me, because Juan, you were talking about peer support, and I absolutely love peer support. Garrett is fantastic. And I'm going to quote you, Garrett. You used to say that in this like peer space, you can take off your society hat and talk really openly about mental health in a way that like you can't find elsewhere. And so I think that is so important. And I just wanted to shout you out.
Oh, so sweet.
Yes.
Thank you, Elizabeth. You're a very
Garrett.
special person.
Garrett, I forgot to say hello. I didn't see you over there in the corner. I won't call you Britt this time. It's Garrett.
Because we taught a class together. Good to see you, Torri.
Good to see you too.
But I just want to like circle back to that topic of peer support and what has that looked like for all of you during the pandemic? Because I saw a stat recently that came out that said 75% of LGBTQ plus individuals found that their mental health was significantly negatively impacted by COVID. And I can't help but think that the isolation that we all went through would be particularly isolating for people who may be struggling with their mental health, struggling with their identity. And how has been finding community and finding peer support during COVID and looked for you all?
Well, I like being alone, actually, with my dog Rufus. I liked it for a period of time. I'd been living alone for about 10 years. I moved to Australia for a couple months, for something that didn't work out. So that was the closest thing I had living to anybody. But then as it kind of got on, then you're right, Elizabeth, like it really did start getting to me mentally. And I also don't have a big gay family. Most of my friends, I think 99% of my friends are straight. I have maybe one gay friend. I don't know why that is. It just is. But one of my friends just recently, I was like, hey, why don't we move in together? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I haven't lived with anybody in over 10 years moving in with you. And she's like, listen, we both suffer from depression. Let's just move in and just have the rest of COVID and at least be together and have some support and whatnot. So I did, and this is my new living room. If you guys like it, there's a pool right over there. If you guys want to come join, yeah. So this has been very good for my mental health for sure. But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No, definitely. Creating community looks different for everyone. But what about you, Leigh and Juan? What did that look like for you during COVID?
Yeah, I was lucky to have like an interest group. I mean, Zoom was it, right? For the most part, like this is where we created. So as far as support goes, in terms of at least sharing a time and a space, right? It was in the form of cocktail hour, or it was in the form of a weekly meeting. But even that fizzled off after about like 2 months or so, because I think the Zoom fatigue of it all, and slight little drop that you experience after hanging out with people that you really adore, appreciate, and respect, and don't physically get to see or touch. Whether consciously or subconsciously, I think the thing really did start wearing. So I was very grateful to have a very Melrose Placey in style apartment building, where one of my dearest gay friends, who is also an ex of mine, he lives here with his boyfriend at the time, and then a very dear girlfriend of mine. So as far as having someone close by, I think I would have probably lost it had I not had that. And other than that, I'm very grateful to my friends in this community also. Britt, who's one of the facilitators and a very big part of NAMI, we made sure to get our walks in and have our connection. So fortunate to have that, right? Create the space digitally where you could not see people, and then have the bubble of people around you. That was helpful to have. That being said, does not mean that I did not experience the impact of what this whole thing had on all of us. And I think it kind of came to a head for me around October, November, where I had to seek some additional help. And thank goodness I had the resources to make that happen.
And for me, it was, I thought I was like 50% extroverted and 50% introverted, but no, I'm 100% extroverted, because it definitely messed me up last year really bad. My anxiety was bad. It was a great year career-wise, but I was really struggling with my anxiety and like learning to like manage it and reel myself back in. But I met like a lot of great people. I got in contact with all of you, with Britt, Get Your Coffee, Get Your Day, which has been great. And just now that I'm able to like kind of start going back out again with my friends, I feel completely fine now. But I definitely did miss like just hanging out with my friends. And like Torri, most of my friends are straight. So it's been great to just go and hang out with them and just like start kind of going back to quote unquote normal, some sort of normal, and just get my social life back and like talk about things I want to talk about with them, and just catch up on life, and not be just stuck at home with like nobody to talk to, or like I hate talking through Zoom or on the phone if I'm not doing an event. I love these types of things, but like if it's my friends, I need them here. I need to like, push them a little bit. I need to just, be talking to them. And I talk a lot with my hands, and that's the same in person. So yeah, I've missed them.
I know I felt the same way. I just saw some of my friends for the first time this weekend after like almost a year and a half, or a year and a little bit. And you're right, Juan, it makes such a difference. But I know for me personally, yeah, Zoom peer support groups is what came through for me. And I'm really lucky that that community was there. And also really lucky that one of the peer classes we taught, actually, we had quite a few members of the LGBTQ community in our class. And I found that I really connected so well with their experience. And Torri and I are actually teaching a peer class coming up this summer. I'm going to put my email in the chat. So if anyone is on the line and looking for a space for an LGBTQ friendly space for peers to talk openly about mental health, know that that's there, and I'll put my contact info in the chat. And I want to ask one final question before we open it up to the audience, because I'm sure people on here have some questions too. But I would love to hear what a piece of advice is, or yeah, just something that to someone who may be struggling right now, whether it's with coming to terms with their own identity, or with their, just the process of coming out, or really struggling with coming to terms, that any advice that you would give someone going through that?
I'd say like do it when you're ready. Don't feel pressured by anyone, whether it's people bullying you in school or any of that. Definitely do it when you feel ready, when you have a support group around you, whether it's literally a warm line that you could call, like the Cal Hope warm line, or a crisis text line, whatever it may look like for you. Talking about it with your close friends, and if you have someone in your family you can talk to, I encourage you to do so. But do it where you feel safe, and when you feel safe would be the biggest advice I can give.
The where and the when, that's a good one. I wanted to say, I was like, "Oh, you're not right." All the statements that have been made in the past, right? I think they still ring true, and it's very hard to come to this realization by yourself if all that you have is the comparison of the lives around you, right? So I'd really encourage to find safe space in person, right? Or peoples that could provide that community for you that's not necessarily driven or influenced. I believe in the power of social media and all the things that are in and around us, but it's also increasingly intimidating, just in terms of what should be and what is open and what is free and what is expression, and the time is now. Yeah, for me, it's definitely seek someone who you consider sees you. Start there.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I've held a resentment against my father since I was 14 years old, since I came out. Because what he said to me when I came out is not repeatable here. I can't say it out loud. It's inappropriate. And he said a lot of things to me growing up, gay, that really just defined who I am today. And who I am today is I am like, I'll kick your ass, or like I've got this like huge shell around me, you know what I'm saying? Like, come at me, let's go, like road rage. Okay, let's go, And my sister actually asked me, like a number of months ago, why do you resent dad so much? Like, why are you so angry at him? What's the anger? I feel the anger. And I told her, and she's like, wow. So she apparently told my father, who has Parkinson's, and he called me up literally like a week ago and said, hey, I just want to talk to you for a minute. I want to apologize for everything that I've said to you. I can't believe the things that came out of my mouth, but actually told me that I had said to you. I don't remember them, but I just want you to know that I love you. And, what I said was completely inappropriate. And had I do it all over again, I would have done it very differently. So there was amends there that was made, which was awesome. But definitely my advice would be to come open up to like they were saying, a safe space. Yeah.
Wow, Torri, that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really impactful. I know my mom had a bit of a hard time with my coming out, and I know that over the years, now that it's been 3-4 years, like I feel like she's really starting to come around to it. So hearing that kind of story is really, it's something that I aspire to. So thank you, Torri. I want to open it up to our community members. Please feel free to raise your hand. There's a raise hand feature down where it says reaction. So if you'd like to raise your hand, we can call on you to unmute. Or if you'd like to put a question in the chat, please feel free and I can read it out. Yes, Marisa. Oh, hi, Marisa. Thank you for being on.
Hi. So my question is that, I'm in the community and I'm identified as bisexual, and there was a myth that I believed in where like I felt like I had to have sex and romantic relationships with both genders in order to prove that I was bisexual. So I'm just curious for the panelists, what is something that you feel like people in the community believe or that you believed that you don't want them to believe, or that you feel like they shouldn't believe, kind of like a myth, or like just, yeah, what do you think about that?
Great question, Marisa. I know my wheels are turning, but I'm going to turn over to our panelists if anyone has an answer.
A myth within the community, you said? That's the question, correct? I think for me it was learning to like love my body. I feel like, especially like within the LGBTQ plus community, at least in my experience, there's like a big focus that you have to be like this super like fit person, or that there's like this hyper sex scene within the LGBTQ plus community, which isn't my case and it isn't what I do. So I think like that's something that I've had to like reel myself back in, that not just because there's a whole bunch of other people doing it and there's nothing wrong with it, doesn't mean that I have to feel pressured to to do the same?
I want to say that the myth fought with me is it's both within the community, because Lord knows we do it to each other just as much as we do it to various groups. But it really struck me when I came out to my mother that the person right before I'm gay and the person right after I'm gay was seemingly so vastly different of a person, not in my experience, but in her experience and her beliefs of what it is to be a gay person, right? What it means to be like, this is going to be a struggle. This is going to be an unsafe life. You're going to make terrible choices. There are drugs and things involved with this, right? I mean, just going down the doomsday list, right, of what it is to be a gay person. And it was interesting for me because I didn't experience it as such. I didn't think it as such, but I definitely adopted some of them. And that took me quite a while to get rid of, to kind of have to prove the opposite. Just in the same way that I was, not necessarily experiencing myself as like a hypersexual person who could just go and have one-night stands with all of these people off of hookup apps, be surrounded by a group of gay friends who all go on cruises and things together. I was like, well, if I don't fit in there and I don't fit in there, then where is it that I fit in? So I think it's a bit of a myth-busting journey there. I think that's kind of what we're here to do, is because it's an individual asking the question of what's going to lead to my greater expansion, right? What's next? What is it that truly makes me feel like I want, or what's more, or what's next? So I feel you as far as needing to prove a thing goes, but I think all that matters is the knowing, right? You knowing, and then if there's a need to know more or know better or know something, to ask that question and safely consider experiencing and exploring that.
Yeah, I love that myth busting journey. Love. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? Marisa, thank you so much for getting the ball rolling. That was a great question. Anyone else have any questions for our panelists? Tim, do I see you reaching? Well, I was trying to think of one thing that like I personally saw as a myth, because I was thinking about it for myself, and I really thought that I needed to present a certain way to be able to be seen as a part of the community. And that was really hard for me, because I was like, in my mind, I also was convinced that like, oh, maybe I'm not gay. Like I was like very anxious that maybe I was wrong. And my therapist was like, Elizabeth, like people who are straight don't wonder all the time if they're gay. So just, take a step back and like we can think about it together. So for me, having that therapist was the person who really helped me be like a sounding board. This was like back 3 or 4 years ago when I was really questioning my identity. But that was something, because I felt like I just didn't match what I saw as like a stereotype. And so I just couldn't find a way to fit into the community. So I really resonated with what you were saying, Leigh and Juan. Yeah. Any other questions? Torri, yeah?
No, I just had a follow-up for Marisa. I know that in the past, like bisexuality has been seen in the gay community as like, but now there's all sorts of stuff, like polyamorous and, all different things. But back when I was growing up, earlier on, before there was a bunch of different, terminologies and identities, the whole being bisexual was just like, oh, you're, the myth was, attention seeking, and couldn't make up their mind and wanted to get attention from whomever. And so that's where I took in as being bisexual, and I had to unlearn that myth as well, as to being like, no, it's not, it's just genderless, that it's whoever it is that that individuals are attracted to at the time or whatnot. It's not necessarily like a game. And so that, to me, that was the myth for me on bisexuality. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. That was that.
Erin or Marisa, I see you're unmuting.
Yeah, my friend actually has a question. So hi, I'm driving. So I won't look at you out of safety reasons. But my question is I noticed that especially during Pride, Pride Month, corporations, stuff like that, like H&M's, all these stores, it really feels, they show up and show out for Pride, but sometimes it feels a little bit corporate and forced and not really. It's like we only get acknowledged on these times. It's like you're making money off of our community. But anyway, so I wanted to ask, what are some fun, if you guys knew some fun LGBTQ owned places that you guys have enjoyed or found community in, that we can support during this Pride Month? Because I'd love to see our money going toward like smaller LGBTQ like coffee shops or just pouring it back into the community rather than these corporations. So if anyone has any recommendations, I'd love to hear them. Thanks.
I don't know of any. Other than my nonprofit, you're more than welcome to make a donation. Just saying. But I don't know of any like. Oh wait, in West Hollywood, yes, I do. They used that yogurt stop place. It used to be lesbian owned. I don't know anymore, but it was the yogurt shop. The place on Santa Monica Boulevard. Anybody know that I'm talking about? They had like the really crazy names of that yogurt. It used to be a lesbian owned shop. I'm not sure if they sold it or not, but that would be one place to check out.
I feel like that might be a valid to actually put a list together of things, to do a little bit of research, because I was like, off the top of my head, I can guess at a couple, but I cannot say for sure, what they are. And I too would love to support specifically.
Yeah.
I see that Ruby in the chat. Ruby is fantastic. She works at our office on the Cal Hope Forum line. She put in LGBTQ plus business search tool. Thank you, Ruby. Talking about a list. There we go. Thank you for adding that. And Juan, thank you. What did you add in there?
I added my friend Elusive's shop. They are trans and she is from New York. So that is their shop. They have some beautiful jewelry there and she's awesome. And I met her in San Francisco and now she's out in New York living her life. So that's a shop you can support. And also donate to any like trans funds that you might see online, like GoFundMe's, etc. I think that's also a great thing to do during Pride Month.
Marisa, you'll have to save the chat for your friends when she's driving. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Thank you. Erin, I saw that you had a hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, it's more of a prompt, I guess. And just also, I just wanted to give a round of applause to all of you for being mental health advocates and sharing your story. And I just think this has been such an amazing conversation. And I wondered, what was that moment for you all that you decided to become a mental health advocate, that you decided to share your story and kind of make an impact? I know some of you are trained in our Ending the Silence program. I've seen you present, and for those of you that don't know our Ending the Silence program, we go into, it's mental health education for middle school and high school students. And so, when was that moment for you that you decided to kind of share your story with maybe the next generation or whomever you're sharing your story with? And then also, is there maybe a story that you can share that's it was a moment where I impacted, I knew that maybe you kind of showed up as the person that you needed when you were that age?
I can actually spot on answer that question for you. On average, NAMI has the numbers. On average, it takes about 10 years from onset of symptoms to diagnosis, right? Mine took about 17 years. So it wasn't until I found a psychiatrist that actually properly diagnosed me. And I'm not an advocate for or against medication or for psychiatry or against psychiatry. You're free to do whatever you like. But for me, I'm medicated. And it was because of this one psychiatrist I still see today. She saved my life, literally. She properly diagnosed me. I was always diagnosed younger as a bipolar type 1. And I just didn't resonate with the symptoms. I didn't go into psychosis. I didn't there's just a lot of things that didn't match up to what I was feeling. So I was like, this doesn't seem right. And then my father would be like, oh, no, you're not taking that medication because you're not crazy. You're not bipolar. Okay, and I'm using those terms with the quotation marks, obviously, because I don't want to be offensive. But what happened was my psychiatrist that I was referred to, her name is Dr. Moder. She saw me on I'm just gonna give her the basics, right? Like just the basic, bare minimum. She's like, yeah, you're bipolar type 2. And I'm like, what? What is that? And I didn't know that there was different types of bipolar. No one had ever educated me. No psychiatrist had ever educated me on mental illness and period, on different types of diagnoses at all. So she explained to me the symptoms, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me, hypomanic episodes, like small hypomanic episodes and then deep depressive episodes. She got me on the right medication, and once I was stabilized, I realized there must be other people out there who are really feeling the stigma and don't have resources or are afraid to speak up or don't know where to go. So I want to start a nonprofit and tell my story in hopes that it will help other people feel more comfortable, being whom they are with a diagnosable mental illness or not diagnosable mental illness. And then of course I found NAMI right shortly thereafter. So it was serendipitous.
Thank you for sharing that, Torri. I think for me, I was 13 when I started, and it was out of like a cry for help. I was feeling really lost, and I couldn't talk about like what I was feeling with my parents because I didn't know how to explain it. I just knew I didn't want to go to school. My stomach was hurting all the time, and I just felt like shit, and I didn't know who to go to or who to talk to. So reaching out to a counselor in school led me to starting into a youth program that was focused on advocacy, and I began like hosting a local television show that explored like issues young people were facing in the community. But for me, like the biggest moment, I guess, when I told my story for the city council, I drafted an LGBTQ plus proclamation. That was at the age of 21. I'm 24 now, but there was a public comment session, a lot of opposition. CBS was there, and they labeled it controversial, all of that. But the proclamation made history, and it passed through the city council for the very first time in the town's history. And there was a lot of people within the LGBTQ plus community that were there crying because they had never gotten that message of encouragement or acceptance. So Erin, you mentioned when were we able to be like that person that we needed? That's when I was able to do it myself, because I didn't get that message of encouragement, and I wasn't going to just sit there and allow other young people growing in the community to go through the stuff I had to go through, because I didn't like how it felt, and I felt lonely, and it impacted my mental health. So I wanted to ensure that I was going to change that, and I wasn't going to allow that to be part of anyone's story anymore. And now in 2021, next week is Pride Week here in my hometown, and that's 3 years after that proclamation passed.
I would have to be honest and say that my sharing of my LGBTQ plus story is not what I lead with. It's something that I think I'm still forming, honestly. Like, I've always valued the ability to play and be playful and imagine and fantasize, and the ability that offers us to feel better is something that I have seen impact people of all ages, especially within working with children in theater and working with people in movement and working with people with various levels of body challenges and mental challenges, in focusing their energy and attention in a different way, right? And so my curiosity with how all of this comes into play in my own life is actually where I'm at in my journey currently moving forward. And I'm extremely excited to be able to guide and facilitate and be an ear for those, and be a supporting hand and heart and all of the above for those who are still coming to face that, as I'm still learning day by day how much of that is fully ingrained within my authentic expression and how much of it is still coming to the surface.
Ollie, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Erin. That was a great question. I think one thing that I love so much about this kind of work is that my lived experience and my story is something that I can, talk about openly, but also kind of decide which pieces, like, I feel like on a given day, I'm like, oh, maybe I don't feel like sharing exactly, or maybe I feel like sharing and really being open. And I always find that when I'm open, I get the most open back, and then I tend to feel a lot less alone. So that's something I've definitely learned in this kind of work, is just really engaging with people that I trust, and people who I know value mental health, and also, just value my identity and my experience. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming out tonight and asking such great questions. And thank you so much to our amazing panelists, Torri, Leigh, Juan. We are so lucky to have had this conversation with you all tonight. And I also want to drop some resources in the chat. We talked a lot today about community, and I want to make sure that you all know that NAMI Westside LA has free online support groups. We have peer support groups that meet on Zoom 4 times a week. And we also have family support groups for those who have loved ones with mental health conditions. And you'll see I also put my email in the chat. So if you're interested in that peer-to-peer class that Torri and I are teaching in the summer, please reach out. And
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, if we can sell you on it, we're here for it. It's an amazing experience. Leigh took the class. It's how we met. And Tim actually just put in the chat the info for our Cal Hope Warm Line. So this is this is a really, really great resource. Calls if you're feeling alone, isolated, if you're looking for resources, if you don't know where to start, the mental health system is really confusing to navigate. Please call our line and talk to one of our counselors, and they can really help you out. Quite a few of our Cal Hope counselors are on this call. And just thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. Erin, Tim, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close out?
Thank you, Elizabeth. You did a great job. I just want to say thank you to everyone again for being here this evening. Big thanks to all our community too for Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're kicking off Pride Month. So we'll have some other events kind of happening throughout the month. I know Elizabeth is going to do some Instagram lives and things like that. So just keep an eye out for other events coming through the month. And just to reiterate what Elizabeth said about our Cal Hope, those are FEMA disaster relief funds, Cal Hope. So it's really very specific, and but it is for everyone. So if anyone is feeling those feelings of isolation, uncertainty, depression, anxiety, whatever that may be, really encourage those people, whether they identify with having a mental health condition or not, it is for everyone. So we are here for you. And you are here for us. So thank you for showing up tonight, being vulnerable, and just representing our community so well. So thank you, and have, be safe, be well, and have a great night.
Thanks, Leigh. Thanks, Torri, Juan. You guys were amazing. So inspiring.
Thanks, everybody.
And Leigh, we have to get them to one of your dance classes or one of your yoga classes. So if you have a link, put that in there. Talk about movement, like let's get together. Let's
get moving. It's just my name, Leigh Wakeford, www.leighwakeford.com.
Okay.